And this is Marcus Buff Bagwell. I want to welcome you today. I've got somebody very special here today that means a lot to me, brother. His father was somebody that I had several matches with and got so many great memory with. This is Royce Adams, man. Welcome, Royce. It's nice to meet you again. See you. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. Nice to meet you too, by the way.
Yes, it's a pleasure. So as soon as you said that, the first question I'm going to ask is, do you even know who I am?
Of course I do.
So well, I didn't know. I wasn't sure. So how old are you, Royce?
I'm 29 right now.
29. So that's young, really, to know, to not being in the business. 29. A normal 29-year-old wouldn't know Buff Bagwell probably. It'd be close.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, I'm not like a lot of normal 29.
You sure aren't, brother. You sure aren't. So your father was Brian Adams. I mean, that's incredible. So growing up, what was your first memory that your father was cool and he was a wrestler and he was on TV? What was your first memory?
Wow, I honestly cannot remember the first time I saw him on TV. I think I may have seen him on videotapes instead. Because here's what I remember: my dad. So when I was a kid, me and my mom would drop him off at the airport and stuff. He'd be gone for a little bit, and then he would come back sometime later. I don't know if I either saw him on video or if I saw him on a game, because that's how I started learning about all these other wrestlers and stuff.
Right.
That's how I learned about you, actually.
Okay.
There's some of these older
Video
games.
games.
All that to you.
Yeah. So what happened with me is my nephews, for example,
hmm
had no idea who I was, and it bothered me. I was like, why do they not know who I? Why don't they know that I'm Buff Bagwell? And I didn't let people know it, but I told my mom, and then they went to school, and one of them goes, "Yeah, my name's Cody Bagwell," and they're like, "Wait a minute, I know a Bagwell, I know a Buff Bagwell." They're like, "Yeah, that's my uncle." And then when they found out that I was cool, then I was cool then. It was like, oh, come to show and tell, come to my school. But did it finally get like that with you? Was it ever take your dad to school and show him that he was the big pro wrestler?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of friends in my old schools would tell me that, like, when I tell them who my dad was, they're like, wait a minute, I seen your dad on TV.
TV, right.
Brian Adams? Wow.
Right.
And
So that's got to be a good feeling, right?
very good.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so did you ever take him to show and tell and something like that, or something at school?
I don't know about show and tell, but there would be times where he would show up to school, and
As big as he was,
he was huge,
I
man.
know, man.
Sometimes you would have to duck underneath the door.
Of course.
Literally, my teacher would even tell me the first time she saw him was when he would go through the door. The whole like lights from the outside would be like completely blacked out because that's how big he was.
He was, man. He was such a big dude and such a great guy, such a nice guy.
Very great.
So what year did your dad pass? What year was it?
He passed away in 2007. Yeah.
So 17 years ago, you would have been,
I actually had just turned 12 at the
there
time.
you go, 12 years old. So how's this? I mean, this is crazy. This is horrible. How do you find this out? How do you hear this?
Well, here's the thing. He passed away while he was at our house, actually. Yeah.
You were at home there with it. Wow. So how did that go down? What happened?
Well, so what happened was, so one morning I woke up, me and my brother woke up one morning. I think he went downstairs first, found him like not, you know, conscious or whatever. He woke me up, asked me to come down to wake him up. And then we went to our mother.
Of course.
Thankfully, she was still in the house, just sleeping in another room because my dad was a loud snorer, by the way.
Right.
We woke her up. She tried to wake him up too, but unfortunately she couldn't. So we called 911, and
Right.
that's when they unfortunately couldn't bring it back either.
That's crazy. I mean, just such a big, strong man. You just never see that coming. So,
No,
yeah, I was in the gym one day in Birmingham, Alabama, and he had 315 on a behind the neck press machine,
mhm.
free weight though. And I said, I was trying to look at it. It was only meant for behind the neck, for shoulders. And I'm thinking that's too much weight, Brian. And so I go, Brian, man, I said, my rule of thumb, brother, is if you can't do, I said, you do six, you should lower the weight. And so I didn't know. So he gets in there and he does 9 of them. And I said, hey, Brian, never mind. So Brian, he was such a strong guy. Do you remember how strong he was?
Yeah.
Did you ever? I mean, you're young, but no training with him probably. But
No.
do you remember that? How? Do you remember how? I mean, was he ever around the house do something where you were like, oh my god, he is strong?
Well, the only memory I can have is when he would easily pick me up, like usually with his one hand, you know. He was,
Right.
I mean, granted, I was little, but he was,
Still.
you know, like, oh God, that reminds me. There'll be times where I would do something stupid, you know, how parents discipline kids and stuff.
Yes.
He would usually be the one to do the disciplining and
Right.
stuff. And I remember one day I was in the pool and I guess I heard my brother or whatever, and he straight up just reached into the pool, grabbed my leg, held me upside down, like I'm
On
some
one leg.
exactly like I'm a fish or a frog or something. Just give me a good
Wow.
smack on the thigh.
Did he really?
Oh yeah, man. He was. I mean, he held back, of course,
Right.
but they would still sting like a.
Right. Absolutely. So there was discipline.
Oh
I
yeah,
love it. There needs to be discipline. We've gotten away from that in childs now, but I'm telling you,
and
with parenting, but there needs to be discipline. Yeah, I got my ass whipped. It was our mama that did it though.
really,
Yeah, my dad had that thing where he could just look at you and you felt bad, but our mom was the belt slinging devil, brother. Ooh, it was rough. So, did you, from seeing your dad do this, so you now are into pro wrestling?
yes, I am.
How long have you been pro wrestling?
I've been wrestling since 2018, so I've been doing this for about 6 years per
Okay.
se. Although I always tell people because of COVID, it's more like I've been wrestling for about 4 or so years.
That's fair. That's fair enough to say. I can see that.
I try to be technical in a way.
And you should, because that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Who trained you?
Mostly it was this guy named Jay Lethal. You ever heard of him?
I know you. I know Jelito real well.
Yeah, he was the
He's one
guy.
of the best.
He was one of the guys that trained me, and he's also my personal favorite too. He taught me
Really?
literally so much. Like it's because of him I know what shine is, what heat is, and stuff.
Right.
Every time before
Locker room etiquette.
that too,
Jay Lethal's the best.
Yeah, but it wasn't just him though. Like when I first started training, there was this referee named Frankie Reyes. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
No, I have heard of him, yes, but I never met him.
yeah, he's a cool dude too. Very old school, you
Yes, I
know.
remember him being very old school.
So yeah, there was him at his school. It shut down shortly after though. I was only in there for like what about a month or so.
Okay.
That's how I was able to train with Jay Lethal and like I said, he was the one that trained me in a lot of these things. You know, there's him. There's my stepdad who also wrestled as Buck Quartermain. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I remember that name. I do, yeah.
He also trained me a bit
Okay.
with the psychology part at least. You know,
That's the most important, bro. I mean,
it really
you can
is.
show somebody the moves, and when to do them, and how to do them, and why they're doing them.
Exactly.
That's what gets you over, you know.
Exactly.
So what is your gimmick? What do you go by?
Well, right now I go by just Royce Adams, or sometimes they add Crush
Great
to it.
name.
Oh, I know, right? Thank you.
It's a great name, brother.
Thank
It really is. So.
Yeah, but sometimes they also call him Royce Crush Adams because they know who my dad is. And
I think and you look like your dad a lot, so I think it's a great way to do it. So, I'd asked Justin Race why he didn't get in the business with his dad being Harley, and his Harley didn't want him to be. So with you, you were only 12, so y'all didn't get a chance really to talk about um, getting in the business or not, really, did you?
actually, believe it or not, we did talk a little bit like that. See, because when I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler.
So that was in the blood. Then I love it. Okay,
You can say that.
yeah,
So I remember talking to my dad sometime later that I told him, "Hey, Dad, I want to do this so bad." And of course, he was reluctant because he knows how the business goes.
Sure,
You know how the business
sure,
goes.
sure.
So he was like, "Are you sure
Yeah,
about that?"
let's talk about that.
But then, and he told me that once I became a black belt in martial arts, I was doing martial arts at that time.
Right.
He told me once I become a black belt sometime later, then he would consider training me. And well, he would consider it, but unfortunately, it never came to be because he had,
Passed.
yeah,
I hate that. So now, who all? He said you have a brother too. You said
I do have a brother.
so. Just two of you guys.
Well, that's the thing. There's not just two of us. So there's me, my brother, and I actually have a half sister, believe it or
Okay.
not.
Okay. What's her name?
Her name's Rachel,
Okay. Is she older or younger?
older.
Okay.
Like
Is she from a previous marriage of your father's or relationship?
more like I don't know how to describe it. More like let's just say my dad hooked up with someone before he met my mother,
Right.
and
But still, your dad still considers her a daughter, and you're
Well, that's the thing. But we didn't know she existed until just a few years ago.
Okay, so that's cool though. You got to find out you had a sister.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
So it was crazy too. I went down. It was because of this DNA thing called 23andMe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So explain this. What happens now? What's the 23andMe?
So 23andMe is a DNA thing. It's like when you get it, you just you have it set up, follow the instructions and send it back, and then it'll if you have the app, it'll tell you what you consist of on the app. For example,
Wow.
yeah, for example, I'm like 37% Japanese, so that's one thing, and it also has like a relative tree line thing or something. So I just for funsies, I just looked at the tree section and I found out I have. It said I had an aunt named Rachel Mackey, and I was like, well, that's I never heard this name before. And then she reaches out to me first, and then later find out she's my half sister.
Wow. So with today's technology
Oh yeah.
and with all of the phone stuff, I mean,
Hmm.
it wouldn't be too hard to find out if somebody's your real blood sister, and that's what you did.
Exactly.
And the app is called 20.
23andMe.
That's incredible. I've never heard of this. Wow. So through that, you found out you had a sister.
Yes, sir.
Now this is after your father passed.
Long after.
Long after. So wow, that's incredible.
Like
Does she look a little like you or anything? Or
I don't know about looking like me, but she looks a lot like my grandmother.
really?
Like as soon as I saw her, I'm like, you look just like Tutu. That's what we called her.
Tutu. I love it. That's a good story, brother. So how do you feel about your career? Do you see yourself as, the WWE? Do you see yourself as an AEW guy? I mean, where do you see your career going?
Well, well, the thing is, when I first started, I always hoped to get into WWE because it was the same company that my dad was a part of many years ago. So I feel that it would be fitting if I showed up if I worked for them. But AEW does seem like another, good spot too. It's like people call it the modern day WCW. You know what I'm saying?
It is. It's when I look back at it, they are WCW trying to beat the WWF. Is what's happening, but it's AEW going after the WWE.
It's the Monday Night War. It's all
It is.
over.
It really is. That's what makes it exciting, and that's why it's going to be. That's why it's going to be around for a lot longer, hopefully. So now, let me ask you a question though. Do you feel you've got what it takes to be a WWE or an AEW superstar?
I would like to think that I do, but I'm also understandable that there are many tasks and many things I have to prove myself in. Because while I may be the son of Brian Adams, I it doesn't exactly just open the door for me right away. I
Sure.
still have a lot to prove to myself. That's why I'm out here doing all these shows. That's also why I was willing to come out here all the way to Vegas to do the CAC Call It in the Ring event.
Love that event. I mean, that shows you. Quick story about that caught in the ring. Okay, so explain a little bit about the caught in the ring, and I'll tell you my story. So, how does this work? Tell everybody. So,
Okay. So how it works is so how nowadays people always like to call it in the back. They always like.
let me say a little bit about that. So, normally, no, you're good. So, normally at a show, you get your finish, and then after you get your finish, that the company wants you to do, you go off to your side, and then you come up with a match to get you to your ending. And usually, you work from the finish and you work backwards to the beginning. Is how you usually do. Well, Cauliflower Alley Club, and to go back on that, a lot of wrestlers kind of look down on that or they frown on it. So now they'll probably hide around the corner and whisper going over it. I was right in the middle of the locker room doing it because everybody did it. But there was some that really frowned on it. And in the old days, they didn't do it. There was no talking it over. You called it in the ring. So Cauliflower Alley Club being around 58 years, they do this thing called
You call it in the ring.
Caught in the Ring. So tell them how it works.
So how it works is so like Buff you were explaining. Like nowadays how everyone always calls it back. Call it in the ring means you have no idea what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no pre-planned spots. No, you don't even know
You know who you're working.
exact no knowing who you're working with. That's how it was too, and you don't know if you're going over or not until you're literally like at the ring, like until like when the official tells you, "Hey, you're going over, buddy." Great.
I didn't even know that part of it. So that's the biggest part is knowing who's winning or losing. So you don't even know that until At what stage before the bell rings?
It happened when I was walking towards the ring, like around the ring.
And
Like
what did they tell you?
the ref just goes to me, "You're going over, kid."
So you were going over,
I even had to repeat myself. Wait, really?
right? So you had to make sure you were going over.
Yes.
Okay, but still, how are you going over? Right? With what? How are you going to get there? How are you going to tell that story? Oh my God, this is freaking me out. So call it in the ring. So now, what do you do? 4 years in the business, fair speaking. What is going through your mind at that stage? What do you come up with for the first spot? What are you thinking?
Well, my first spot, first of all, I always like to lock up and stuff. I always like to stick with basics because, that's just how it is.
Right?
Lock up. And then while you're locking up, talk to the guy.
A little bit.
Yeah, the guy I was working, he was actually really good at calling.
So he was good. Okay.
Yeah, he was one that was calling most of the stuff.
Good.
I have to give him credit for that.
Absolutely.
He was calling a lot of the stuff, and then, we would do this and that. Funny thing was, I thought I was going to be face because we were divided on face and heel. I was sitting on the face side, and so was he.
Mhm.
But then as he was calling stuff, he was telling me to do heel stuff, And I was like, "You sure?" "Yeah, man, go ahead." I'm like, "Okay." So I started doing heel stuff. People booed me and stuff.
Okay, so you were the heel through the match.
Yes, I transitioned to the heel.
Yeah, okay, that's good though. So the guy knew what he was doing. So this is extremely hard at this junction. And I wish I would have known this. I would have came and watched it.
Mhm.
This can either you walk away learning something very valuable on these kind of things, but you also can walk away looking real stupid if you're not careful because it's just very tough. I mean, I remember at WCW, the story I got to tell about this.
Go ahead.
Global Wrestling Federation. I was a handsome stranger. And before Global, I was at North Georgia Wrestling. Well, we didn't know any better to go over it. We had separate locker rooms at the skating rink we used to wrestle at. So we'd get in the ring, two guys that were green and horrible, and we would lock up and two green guys trying to talk with 12 people there. You could hear a pin drop. It's so quiet. Everybody can hear us talking out there. It was horrible. It was embarrassing. I mean, it seemed like it was years of this, and it wasn't that long, but it was about a year of it, of just horrible, embarrassing matches. And then, but I was getting better no matter what. You get better at it, and because you don't like being embarrassed. So I got better and better at it. Then Global opened, and I went to the Global Wrestling thing, and I walked into the dressing room, and I see a babyface and a heel going over a match, and I go, "Wait a second, y'all can talk before going out there?" And they go, "Yeah, what do you do?" I go, "Oh my God, my career from the last match as Fabian to the first match as Handsome Stranger was 1,000,000 times better. I got it. I understood it. And man, I got really good really fast because of that. I think because of being so good at calling it in the ring finally, that once you could go over a few things, man, it was like, wow. So that call in the ring thing is a big deal. And I like that. It's really cool. So how did you manage to do the finish with the call in the ring?
Yeah, I remember that now.
That's tough, brother. So, but what do you remember what you went over with?
Oh yeah.
So what'd you go over with?
As a heel, I went over with the suplex pin, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like when you're about to suplex a guy, but then you pull them under and hold their legs in place.
Yeah.
That's how I went over.
Okay. And he knew it looked okay.
Well, I think we're supposed to do another kind of pin, but he kind of kicked out, so I had to improvise a little bit real quick, get in position, and then do it again, and then boom. And after that, I just rushed the hell out of the ring. Exactly.
Got her out. Yeah.
That's right.
I love it. Well, that's a great thing, man. I love it. So, wow. So what is maybe some of your last really great stories with your dad are? I mean, what memories do you have?
Oh, well, let's see. So I remember, well, I have quite a few memories.
Tell me.
There are memories of, say, like I told you earlier, I remember me and my mom dropping him off at the airport and then picking him up. There were memories where he would take me to, like, arcades and stuff, amusement parks. I even remember too when he sometimes picked me up from school, he would have a set of clothes in the bag and he goes, "Hey Royce, go in the back. I got some clothes for you." Oh, thank you, Dad. And I'll go in there, change, and we'll go to a Busch Gardens, an amusement park close to where we live.
Oh, cool. That was cool, man. I mean, your dad was a great guy. He was such a cool guy, man.
Very
So,
great. He
um,
loved me a lot too.
yeah. So now your brother, how old's your brother? Younger or older?
He's younger, and I believe he is 25 right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool, man. Was he in the business?
No, he is not.
Okay. Well, brother, I really enjoyed this so much. It's great. Again, this is Brian Adams' son, Royce Adams, that's been with us here. And good luck with your career, man. And
Thank you.
hopefully I'll see you on TV big time one day.
Hopefully, yeah.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.